Considering that 30 different people are needed to fill up a standard Royal Rumble, and given that it's one of WWE's flagship events, you'd have thought that every famous wrestler that has ever been signed to the company would have been in the titular match at least once. If they can make room for Timothy Well, Tom Brandi, and Jonathan Coachman, surely they can make room for some actual legends, right? But alas, these 10 famous grapplers never got a chance to participate, leading to a significant gap in their otherwise impressive resumes. Now, for this here list, we will only be counting official Royal Rumbles that took place at official Royal Rumble events, which means nothing pre-1988, nothing that took place on Raw or SmackDown, and nothing emanating from Saudi Arabia. Got that? Good. Let's get ready to rumble! I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 greatest wrestlers who have never been in the Royal Rumble. Join us! Number 10, Barry Windham. There is a strong case to be made that Barry Windham, son of Blackjack Mulligan, brother-in-law of IRS, and uncle of Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt, is one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. A standout of the NWA and later WCW, Windham won numerous championships, including the NWA World Heavyweight title, and was part of a popular incarnation of the Four Horsemen. I know this doesn't sound very underrated, but just ask anyone under the age of 35 who he is and you'll see what I mean. Though Windham's most prolific period in WWE came before the Rumble was invented, he did make a couple of brief returns to the promotion when it was a thing, including between 1996 and 1998. Unfortunately though, every gimmick he had during this time was cursed. Firstly, he was the Stalker, which should tell you all you need to know. Then came his run in the New Blackjacks before he ended up in the short-lived NWA Invasion, which, yeah, let's not go there. None of these roles were deemed Rumble-worthy, so Big Baz will have to go without it when it comes to this special match. Number 9, Billy Kidman. Part kid, part man, all action. Billy Kidman rose to prominence in WCW as part of their cruiserweight division before being snapped up by the competition and playing a role in the Invasion. Look at this, 2 entries in and we've already talked about 2 different doomed Invasion storylines. Things can only get better, eh? The man who made jorts a thing way before John Cena competed in the first sanctioned WCW bout on Federation programming when he beat Gregory Helms on the July 5th, 2001 edition of SmackDown. He wrestled for the company up until 2005, winning more titles before hanging up his boots for good in 2008 and returning to WWE in a backstage role. Despite being a recognizable name and face, Kidman never got his chance to shine in the Rumble match. He never even appeared on a Rumble pay-per-view, actually. The closest he would get was losing a qualifying match to Tajiri on the SmackDown before the 2004 event. His tag partner cum rival Paul London famously appeared in the match, taking one of the all-time great Rumble bumps in 2005, but for Kidman, it just never happened. Number 8, Roderick Strong. We said at the start that we wouldn't be counting the greatest Royal Rumble, which means we could include the likes of Babatunde, Dan Matha, and Hiroki Sumi on this list. We could, but we won't be. Instead, let's talk about another name who made the trip out to Saudi Arabia in 2018 but never got to appear in a domestic Rumble match. Before he was yelling the word Adam in AEW, Roderick Strong joined NXT in 2016 where he would stay for the next 6 years. In that time, he feuded with and later joined the Undisputed Era, becoming a tag team and North American champion in the process, but never got the call to join the main roster. In fact, none of the era did, which is probably a good thing in hindsight. Strong spent 6 minutes in the greatest Royal Rumble, managing to eliminate Rhino before getting chucked out by Baron Corbin. Since he never made it to Raw or SmackDown, this remains his only WWE Rumble experience. Neither Kyle O'Reilly nor Bobby Fish made it to the main match either, but Adam Cole showed up in the 2018 edition, which is something. Number 7, Taka Michinoku. Another shout for most underrated ever, Taka Michinoku is a legend in his native land and still regularly appears for New Japan Pro Wrestling. The inaugural WWE Light Heavyweight Champion had a very famous Rumble moment in the year 2000 when he and his Kai-en-Tai partner Funaki kept running interference as unofficial participants. The gag was that the two of them would keep running down to the ring only to get immediately dumped out, but nobody was laughing when Gangrel and the Big Boss Man threw Taka out of the ring so hard that he over-rotated and landed directly on his face. According to various reports, Taka suffered anything from a concussion to a broken collarbone from the fall, taking him out of further planned run-ins across the rest of the evening. Perhaps this experience scarred Kai and Tai for life, as neither Michinoku nor Funaki would have anything to do with the Rumble ever again. Number 6, Dean Malenko. The Radicals, who you knew were cool because they spelled their name with a Z, had mixed fortunes when it came to the Rumble match. Chris Benoit famously won the whole thing from number 1 in 2004. Eddie Guerrero was only in 2 of them, managing a respectable combined total of about 45 minutes, whereas Perry Saturn's 2 appearances total less than 8 minutes. But still, that's better than not being in one at all. The 4th member of the group was the Iceman himself, Dean Malenko, known for being a very serious man with a haircut that you could set your watch to. Malenko also jumped ship from WCW to WWE in 2000, capturing the light heavyweight championship twice and having memorable matches with Scotty 2 Hotty and Team Extreme. Unfortunately, he stepped away from the ring in 2001, and since he didn't appear in either the 2000 or 2001 Rumble matches, that particular box on his career tick list shall remain forever unchecked. Number 5, Paul Orndorff. As far as our research can tell, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff is one of only 3 WrestleMania main eventers to have never been in the Royal Rumble match. The other 2 are Mr. T and Lawrence Taylor, just in case you were wondering. Orndorff closed out the very first edition of the Showcase of the Immortals, teaming with Roddy Piper in a losing effort to Hulk Hogan and the aforementioned star of the A-Team. This was in 1985, 3 years before the Rumble existed, but a lot had changed by the time WWE's newest tradition came around. A weightlifting accident had severely restricted the use of Orndorff's right arm to the point where in January 1988 he was considered retired. Though the Hall of Famer would return to the ring in the early 90s, it would be for WCW, who, as far as I can remember, didn't host any Royal Rumbles. Orndorff is such a classic wrestling personality and so tied to Golden Age WWE that you would have thought he would have been a shoo-in for an early Rumble outing. Alas, fate had other plans for Mr. Wonderful, and this just wasn't to be. Number 4, Ricky Steamboat. It's hard to believe, but Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's only major run in WWE lasted just 3 years. He had a weird comeback in 1991 and then that amazing WrestleMania showing against Chris Jericho, but all in all, he was barely there at all. This is shocking because Steamboat's impact on the company was massive, particularly through his legendary Intercontinental Championship bout with Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3. However, that was in 1987, 1 year before the Rumble concept debuted. Steamboat actually opened the first ever Rumble card, beating Rick Rude in a singles match by DQ, but by the time the show made its pay-per-view debut the following year, the Dragon had already flown back to WCW. Though the initial window of opportunity for Steamboat to appear in a Rumble was slim, it's bonkers that WWE haven't gotten him in for a legend slot in any of the modern ones, especially after he rolled back the years at Mania 25. Number 3, Devon Dudley. If we were able to travel back in time to before January 2015, then we could have put both Dudley boys on this list. At that show, which took place in Philadelphia, Bubba Ray got a huge pop from the ECW home base when he was revealed as the 3rd entrant in the match. This was Bubba's first WWE appearance in almost a decade and foreshadowed he and his brother Devon's full-time return to the company later that same year. Somehow, even though he was employed by WWE up until 2018, Bubba Ray never made another Rumble appearance. Even more shockingly, neither did Devon, which means that the former Reverend is still yet to get off the mark when it comes to the 30-man over-the-top Battle Royal. It's not like he's not been on Rumble pay-per-views. He and Bubba competed in tag matches every year between 2000 and 2004, just never in the titular match itself. Considering all of his greatest rivals have been in multiple Rumbles, with some even winning the damn thing, you've got to feel a little bit sorry for Devon. Never mind the tables, get the tissues instead. Number 2, Camala. The Ugandan giant may not have been the greatest wrestler in the world, but he sure was a memorable character and an attraction nonetheless. Camala had multiple runs with WWE and was particularly prominent during the mid-80s, engaging in notable rivalries with the likes of Andre the Giant, Jake Roberts, and Hulk Hogan. By the time the first Rumble came around, however, James Harris had already left the company. When he came back in the early 90s, he had a couple of opportunities to compete and was even advertised for 2 Rumble matches, but never ended up up drawing a number. I'm not entirely sure why he missed the cut in 93 when he wrestled on the Raw beforehand and at a Superstars taping the day after, while in 94 he was announced as competing but was then replaced by Virgil. Replaced by Virgil, the indignity of it all. Camala would only make a few future WWE appearances in WrestleMania X7's Gimmick Battle Royal and then putting over Randy Orton and Umaga, but was seemingly never in consideration as a surprise Rumble entrant. Number 1, Razor Ramon. No, your eyes do not deceive you. One of the most popular, iconic, and important wrestlers of all time has never thrown his hat in the ring when it comes to the Royal Rumble. Scott Hall, best known for his days in WWE as the chain-wearing, toothpick-throwing, dodgy accent-having Razor Ramon, was with the company from 1992 to 1996, but just so happened to be busy in January every single year. In 1993, he faced Bret Hart for the world title, and then from 94 to 96, he defended the Intercontinental Championship at every Rumble show. Though secondary champions have entered the Rumble, Razor was always left off the list. His 2002 return as a member of the NWO may have yielded a WrestleMania payday, but he had been fired by the time the 03 Rumble rolled around. Poor health and personal issues meant that he was never in good enough shape for a nostalgia return, and that was that. Even without a single world title run or Rumble appearance to his name, Hall is heralded and beloved by wrestling fans around the world. He may have been called the bad guy, but he was just too damn good.